Welcome back to another episode here on the Heart and Hustle podcast. For the next leader, Ms. Brandi, how you doing today, ma'am?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me.
Brandi, I'm super excited. It is Friday for us currently. For whoever may be watching, maybe it's not Friday, but we're definitely getting ready to, for the weekend. What is your go-to thing to do on the weekend, Brandi? Like,
Ooh,
is it gardening? Is it house stuff?
I love a good hike. I love the outdoors. In fact, this weekend I'm going to Zion, which is just in the backyard of Vegas, beautiful national park. So that's my go-to and good for self-care as well.
Love it. Is that home for you, Vegas?
So I grew up in California, but yeah, Vegas is now home. There's a lot of us Californians, transplants, who made it out to Vegas.
So I'm West Coast your whole life. Never thought about coming to the East Coast.
I have lived on the East Coast. I lived in DC. I lived in
Okay.
Boston. So yeah, I did a little tour, made it to the
Say
Midwest. I've
less,
never
say
lived in the
less.
South, so maybe one day. Well, maybe one day
What
we'll
is,
get
that's
there.
where I'm at, the South. What's your thoughts on Boston?
It was not my favorite place. So hopefully there aren't like Bostonians on this call. A lot of rich history. Love the people that I met, but I was only there for 2 years, and I went there for school, for grad school, and then
Okay.
headed on down to DC, and that
Yeah,
felt
yeah, I was born
more
in Boston.
like home to
So
me.
you saying that is like, damn, I thought you were gonna say something positive about
I'm
Boston, bro. That's
sorry. I'm
crazy.
sorry.
No,
I'm
just joking. I'm just joking.
sorry.
I don't remember it to be quite frank. I was adopted at 7. We moved to
Okay.
Florida, so and
Okay.
I'm 35. So let's be honest. Am I from Boston? Not at all.
Right.
I'm from Florida. I'm from Orlando. This is what I know. However, I have gone back and thought it was fun. Even my wife, like when I told her we were going to Boston, she's like,
Yeah.
"What the hell is in Boston?"
Yeah. Yeah.
And when we
Yeah.
went,
Well, there are
we
plenty of
went. She
things to
enjoyed it.
do for sure.
Yeah,
For sure. And I
and that's
haven't been back since I moved, but I would go back. And I'm glad that I had that time in New
yeah.
England.
And that's
And the
what
Red
come.
Sox were good when I was there. So that was like a thing going to Fenway and all
Don't
that
try to
stuff.
suck up now. You already said what you said. Okay, you already said what you said. No, just joking. No, there's a lot of history. We stayed in downtown Boston, and I
Okay.
really did love it. And we got to eat some lobster rolls.
Okay.
Okay,
I love a
lobster
good
rolls out in
lobster roll.
Boston.
Love a good lobster roll.
Yeah, yeah, that was good. Well, tell us what is it that you're doing, Brandy? What's the organization that you're behind? What is your role in this organization?
Yeah, so I work with Active Minds. We are focused on mobilizing youth and young adults to make change for mental health in their communities and on their campuses. I am the vice president of community initiatives. And so, what that really means is that we know that a lot of young people are in schools. We
Mhm.
also know that there are other ways to connect with young people. And so, our team goes and does our programming at schools, but we try to broaden it to like other communities. So, that's community organizations, sometimes that's workplaces, and a variety of other things as well. And I've been at Active Minds. It'll be 2 years in a few weeks, but have always had my career at the intersection of education and mental health. And so this is just a
Okay.
continuation of that journey.
My next question is why? You could be doing anything else, getting paid, but you're in this
Right.
space, which is I love it. This is a passion, purpose. I always feel like people that are aligned into this world is it's a passion and a purpose. It's not
Yeah.
about paychecks. Um, why? Why do you get into this work?
Yeah, it's a really great question. A few different reasons. How I ended up in like education was that there were always people, whether it was like a single counselor or a teacher,
Mhm.
who really believed in me and encouraged me and helped me get to that next step. So I really wanted to
Yeah.
be that person for other people, for other young people. What I found though, once I started my career off in education in the out of school time space and working from educational nonprofits, was that there were a lot of unaddressed mental health needs. And so I was like, okay, that's a space that I also want to learn more about.
Mhm.
So I really, I think I always tell people that my mom, she's not a social worker. She's always been
Yeah.
in like uh, finance and business, but she was like the first social worker in my family. And what I mean by that is that, if like cousins or whoever were having trouble, they would come through to my mom's place and she would help them out. So I think being raised in that environment, it was really encouraging, and figuring out like how can I utilize or learn skills to have the most
Yeah.
impact, and help people that in the communities that I care about.
So shout out to mom for really planting the
Yeah,
seed
shout
all those
out.
years ago. Yeah,
Shout
yeah,
out
yeah.
to her.
One thing that you mentioned, and I think is so crucial, is that you had someone in your life that was just cheering for you.
Yeah.
And so many times we don't have young ones that have that. You mentioned your mom. A lot of times we don't have that mom, father figure, or just parent at the home that is uplifting us. And so you being in this space and as a color woman, I think is also like crucial, right? Because representation does matter. So I love that you're in this space and you realize you just want to be for someone else on what you had in your life.
Yeah.
And for me, I kind of do the same line of work, but really different because I want to be for someone else for what I wish I had in my life,
Mm,
right? Understanding that need, but just like you, I had someone in my life that believed in me before I even was believing in myself. There was so
right.
much going on in my home: the sexual abuse, the adoption,
Mm,
and it was teachers that seen me for who I was. So when I was acting
mhm,
up in class, it
mm,
wasn't that I was a trouble kid. It wasn't that I was stupid. It was like, what's really going on? And I can
mhm.
imagine you come at it from that direction. Not that this is a bad kid, but mentally there's something there. Is that correct, Brandy?
Yeah, absolutely. So I did clinical social work at a school in the Bay Area for several years before
Hmm.
making other transitions. And I really like to think that that's what I was for a lot of our young people, right? Like helping them to see beyond like the current situation and their
Yeah.
circumstance and having that perspective of like, I believe in you. What's really going on? How can we shift things if possible? What kind of support, what kind of resources can we connect you to so that eventually you can start to see and believe in that vision for your life and for yourself as well?
I love it. I love that you're in this space, and I love that you have this passion and just smiles to still do what it is that you're doing. When you look at the origin story of Active Minds,
Mhm.
what part always continues to inspire you? I know you said 2 years, but there was obviously that thing that just allowed you to continue to every day to show up and say, "I love this."
Yeah. Well, two things I'll mention. One is how I came to Active Minds was I was working at another organization at a time and I attended the Active Minds conference, which is for youth and young adults around mental health, the national conference. And I was just so encouraged and excited and enthused and all the other E words by the energy in that space for
Yeah.
like youth and young adults who are like, I want to make things happen. And I am here because I am already dedicated to this field and like making change. So I was like, you know what? This is amazing. And I looked at the job postings, and luckily there was a job that like fit my interest, and I applied for it. So that's how I came to Active Minds. But then like learning more about the origin story, I think Allison's story of starting the first Active Minds chapter at University of Pennsylvania following her brother dying by suicide. It's just inspirational to have that wherewithal as a first year student after grieving, right? And still experiencing the loss of her brother, but like, hey, I know this is something that not just affects my family, but probably has affected thousands and millions of family and young people. What can I personally do to make some change so that, things around mental health aren't as stigmatized and people feel comfortable expressing what's going on with themselves and reaching out for support. So I think, the origin story of Active Minds is very inspirational for me and is a reminder of the work that we're doing.
You just talking about that. I'm going to ask this question, and I don't know how secret it's going to be anymore. But what is the secret sauce you guys think at Active Minds that you guys have? Thinking about some of the special things that you guys do at this organization.
That's a good question. I guess maybe the secret sauce is really listening and centering the experiences of youth and young adults and being responsive to the things that we're hearing that they want and desire in terms of like the programming that we provide and the resources that we provide. So I think that's the secret sauce. And then I guess I'm always like when people say or ask these kind of questions, I always just think about the people, right? Like
Hmm.
because people get things done and people make things happen. So the youth and young adults, and then obviously the staff that are there and are supportive and are dedicated to this field.
Oh yeah, believe me, people all day. I'm in a place now where we have this organization been around for 35 years at the school level. So it's a foundation that is kind of attached to the school I graduated from.
Mm-hmm.
And so many people will tell you they didn't know it exists, right? Because the people are not good enough at telling the story or just being out in the public. But also finding people that just have a passion. Well, that's what
Mm-hmm.
we talked about, right? At the beginning is that you have a passion and purpose. And not everyone has that. A lot of people are chasing the paychecks. I would ask you, do you feel when we talk about just our kids and we're telling them to go become these, doctors and become these, whatever it is, right? These high level paying jobs that go into corporate or they go into debt, whatever that may look like. But then I don't think that we talk about this lane enough, like the nonprofit space, the impact work. Do you feel that we should see more youth into this space?
It's a really great question. And as you were talking, I started thinking about my time. So I worked at, I guess what some would call it, elite university. And I worked though with the first generation low income community there, and I ran some programs there. Part of the work there was advising these young students who would often come in like, I want to be the doctor, I want to be the lawyer, I'm going to med school, etc. And as their journey sort of evolved, they're like, you know what? Those roles and professions are super important. And
Mhm.
also, there are other ways that I want to impact my community. And so there was a little of a discovery process. So I say all that to say, like, I think both is needed. I think it's important to, to the extent possible. I know there are some such situations and circumstances where some young people or even adults are like, I don't have time to explore. I got bills to pay. I have mouths to feed. Like, I get all of that. But if there is that opportunity and that leeway to kind of lean into and figuring out what you're most interested in, it doesn't always have to be that full-time job that you do, but it could be the
Mhm.
thing that you do on the side. It could be that hustle. It could be that thing that you're dipping your toes into. I think that's important just for purpose. I think having a purpose in life, whatever that may be, is one of the things that like helps and contributes to like a happy and satisfied life. And so I do encourage that exploration, especially when it means expanding horizons. Like I know when I first went to college, I knew about like three or four careers. I
Yeah.
think I'm older, so the internet wasn't like as vast as it is now. But I think as I went into my educational journey, my world opened up. I'm like, wow, there are different ways that I can do this kind of work that's most meaningful to me. Sorry,
Yeah.
that was all over the place, but hopefully,
No, no, no. That was so good, and it makes complete sense because believe it or not, as I speak to leaders, no one decided they were going to do this from jump.
right,
They got
exactly.
into it because life happened some way or somehow, right? I would always go back to this judge. He was one that kind of stands out where he's like, I was tired of seeing these young kids in my courtroom, and I
Mm,
realized that I had to walk away from being a judge and
mm,
go backwards to
mm.
start working with these kids, one on one. So they're not in the courtrooms. And I
Yep,
was like, wow, that's how you just know, right? That you found your purpose, you found passion. And not everyone finds it at 20 or 30. So,
right,
yeah, life sometimes you got to kind of experience it. Tragedies sometimes make us realize, wait
sure.
a minute, I need to kind of keep this legacy going. How do I get involved? But I love one of the things you said is just start volunteering.
Yeah,
Just start with a day,
yeah,
because in the nonprofit space, especially, they're always looking for volunteers. So if
yep,
you could just start one day, find something that you love, I can use Google and research a nonprofit and something that you truly are passionate about. I can imagine there's probably one in your area,
yeah,
right?
exactly,
So no,
exactly.
you're
Test it,
definitely, it
test it
wasn't all
out,
over the place.
test it out. Yeah.
Yeah, it was good stuff. What's one marketing challenge you think you face when you tell students, and I can imagine this happens all the time, mental health matters, and they say, yeah, we've heard that before.
Yeah, I think, because there's a vast amount of information available to young people these days, I think really it's the trying to understand from them, like, what is your value add? Like, yes, mental health matters. And what are you all doing that's like different or significant or could support the things that are most important to me? And I think what's beautiful about the programs at Active Minds is that we can help a young person figure out, well, what is the thing that's most important to you? Like, if you know that mental health matters and you're seeing this issue on your campus or in your community, let's figure out how we can address that and support you in addressing that in your
Mhm.
space. So I think what I guess the differentiator there is this like student led piece of like understanding what's most meaningful to
Okay.
them around mental health and supporting them with being able to act on that.
Brandy, this organization, is it chapters? Is that what it is? Different chapters throughout the country, or is it a specific location? What does that actually look like when you
Yeah.
guys talk about being in these spaces?
Yeah, it's a great question. So we have our national chapter network, which is we have 500 plus chapters at high schools and colleges across the country, so in a lot of
Mhm.
different states. But that's just one of our programs. So the chapters really are like peer led, youth and young adult led clubs that are taking action for mental health on their campuses and in their communities, and they can decide like again, like I was saying before, what actions are most important, what is needed in their communities. We also have other programs. We have Sin Silence Packing, which is our national tour around mental health and trying to get
Mhm.
young people to mobilize for mental health. So we go and visit different college campuses and engage them in actions of things that they can do to improve mental health in their community. We have a speakers bureau. We have programs for individuals who want to create mental health campaigns in their campuses and their communities. So our chapter network is, where we started, and over the past 20 plus years have expanded to other different kinds of programming. Again, listening to what's most important to youth and young adults.
Love that. And when we're talking about the digital age, things are changing so much, innovation's happening.
Yeah.
What's that one digital strategy that you found effective for actually normalizing mental health conversations? So I think, ChatGPT, everyone's kind of using that, but I can imagine there's a lot of different things that are actually very helpful because still ChatGPT is not where we would love it to be, especially on mental health.
For sure. Yeah. So we have one of the biggest things that we launched just a few years ago is called Ask, which stands for Acknowledge, Support, and Keep in Touch. And essentially, it's an interactive YouTube experience that anyone has access to. It's free. You can go to YouTube. And we develop it in partnership with MTV Paramount. And basically, it's a 10-minute digital experience, very interactive, where it's a simulation of like two people having a dialogue around a challenging situation. So we call it the stop, drop, stop, drop, and roll. That's what it is for emotional support. So in 10 minutes, a young person or anyone really could learn, how do I engage in these kinds of conversations with my peers that are supportive and can help them deal with some of the everyday situations. So that's, one sort of example of how we're recognizing that people live in digital spaces now. So how can we continue to innovate to meet folks where they're at?
I love that. And it's so much to really kind of talk about in this space as well, because I think we have to figure out in the space of mental health, how do we measure that? So what metrics matter for when you're measuring mission success and not just the dollars that are being raised? Because I think the dollars, yeah, it's great, but in reality, the mission is what matters more.
Absolutely. And this is something, that we are really focused on. We have a measurement team at Active Minds. And so I think what I've seen from like personally working at other nonprofits, like the first step, you're really trying to understand like who are we reaching? Like what are the numbers of people that we're reaching with all of our different programs, et cetera. The step that usually comes after that is like, okay, what is the change that they're experiencing? And so in alignment with our strategic plan, our newest strategic plan that we've developed in the past few years, all of our programs are really becoming very clear on like what is the change that we're measuring. And so, not into all the nonprofit slash corporate measurement speech, but we have key performance indicators that we'll be measuring against just to make sure that our programs are doing what we say they are going to do.
I love that. And in your early nonprofit days, what was the biggest lesson you learned about mission? You've been in this space for a very long time, and maybe also talk about sustainability as well.
Yeah. I think in my early nonprofit days, probably the biggest lesson is that mission creep happens so easily, and you don't necessarily notice it at first, but then you start delving into all these different things that are maybe slightly or tangentially related to the original mission, but that can really burn out staff, right? And so I think, it's important for nonprofits to be very clear on their mission and focus on like, this is what we're going to do. And all those sort of tangential things that may come our way, like feeling confident and comfortable with saying no, because we're really focused on trying to move the needle on this specific mission. I think there was another part of your question, but I can't recall.
It was just talking about the biggest lessons about you learn about mission and sustainability is
Okay.
pretty much being in space for some time. So I
Yeah.
think you definitely covered both of them.
Okay.
You must love the work. You've been doing it for so long, though.
Yeah. I'm here.
It's. Can you see yourself doing anything else? If the Heart and Hustle podcast has ever sparked any idea or made you think differently, do us a favor. Make sure you guys share this, post it on LinkedIn, or even text that nonprofit friend that you just have. Whatever works, this is what keeps the conversation going and allows us to just grow this community together. Seriously, we appreciate you.
Honestly, no. I think I will. I mean, The mental health and education space is so broad, but I think I will always either work on a nonprofit or educational institution. I think that's my comfort right now. I think I have a network in that space. I think the impact that um, we're making in this space is important. And I think one of the things you hear with nonprofits is like you're trying to work yourself out of a job eventually, right? But given our world, sometimes it's like, is that going to happen in my lifetime? I don't know. I would want it to, but I don't know. And so I think I'm here for the long haul, and trying to make.
Okay. Is it one day that is there like a role that you're looking for right now? You're in the VP spot at some point. Are you the CEO? Like,
Ooh,
what does that look like long term?
this is- good questions. I maybe need to take some steps back and reflect on that. I feel like in the present, I'm feeling really good with the role that I have, and excited to make the impact that I can in this role. Yeah.
You just take life one day at a time.
That's the way to do it. I always tell
Absolutely.
when I was advising young people, I would say like every role or experience I have has revealed more about me and more about life. And it's
Hmm.
important to pay attention to what it's revealing to help you understand and determine what your next step is. And so, I've been on this earth for 41 years and that's worked so far. I'm going to knock on wood and hopefully that continues to work for me.
I like to say when I go to jobs, it's always what's in it for me. And I mean, I've left the corporate world, but any position I took was
Yeah.
what's in it for me.
Yeah.
And I always give myself a timeline as well. For those young individuals that are listening, every job is a learning experience.
For
As you
sure.
mentioned, you're learning something, whether it's an
Mhm.
actual, thing that you can take on to your next job, or as you're learning about yourself, more importantly.
Mhm.
And that happened to me my first job. I never knew that I was going to be a leader, that I would be able to manage a store. And I did that at 19
Mhm.
years old. And that changed the trajectory of my life. It
Mhm.
goes back to someone believed in me. Someone says, wait a minute, this guy shows up every day. He doesn't, when we need somebody because somebody called out, he's showing up, he's here
Yep.
closing, all these different things allowed him to realize, oh wait, this guy's a leader. I
Yeah.
didn't see that in myself.
Yeah.
But now here I am really leading people. So yeah, if you're asking yourself, is it for me? Figure out what's for you. Something there is for you.
Yeah.
So I love that you actually bring that up for sure.
Yeah. I
Well,
really appreciate you sharing that story because I think also, some people sometimes might say no or maybe to something because they don't feel like they're ready for it. And so
mhm.
like again, being able to dive into some opportunities and for every experience and role, you do learn things along the way. And sometimes the
Yeah.
learning is like, yeah, this is for me. And sometimes it's like, this is not for me. And I'm gonna
Yeah.
go do
Yeah.
something else.
And even through failure, one of the biggest
For sure.
lessons I've learned is always going to be through failure. When
Yeah.
you fail, as much as it hurts and it stings and it feels bad, and the imposter syndrome, and you start doubting yourself,
Yep.
in reality, there's something to learn in that from the failure as well. And I had to learn that early on in my life, as I was kind of going through these entrepreneurship roles, is just because you fail doesn't mean it's over.
Yep.
Learn what's right, what you can
Mhm.
take from it, and then don't make the same mistake twice.
There you go.
Simple.
There you
Easier
go.
said than done, but
Yeah,
that's
of
just some
course.
of the
Of
things that
course.
what's your hope for the next 5 years when we talk about active minds and how you can actually keep people plugged into the now?
Yeah. Well, our main driving force right now is to mobilize 100,000 youth and young adults to make change for mental health in their
Love it.
communities and on their campuses. So that is my hope for us over the next few years and to really hone in on the ways that we're doing it. Um, there was another part of your question that I forgot. Sorry, the memory on Friday is,
It's Friday. Again, don't worry. You're already on the weekend here. No, it's just what's your hope for the next 5 years of active minds and how can people continue to stay plugged into the
Oh
now?
yeah, for sure. So, follow us on socials, for sure. So we're on LinkedIn, we're on Instagram, Active Minds. Going to our website, activeminds.org, so you can see the variety of different programs and ways that
Mhm.
like youth and young adults can engage in our programs. And those are probably the best ways to stay connected to us.
How many programs you guys would say off the top of your head? Maybe you don't know the
Ooh,
exact
that's a
number,
good
but you have a number of
question.
programs you guys actually offer?
I'm gonna say like 10. Um, that sounds
Okay.
That sounds about right.
Don't quote her. Yeah, don't quote her. Okay,
Don't
don't quote
quote
her.
me.
She's
It's funny. I've never thought about the number of programs that we've had. I've thought about, the number of chapters we had. So, but yeah, about 10. That sounds about right. Yeah. Go. You can check the website. You can check the
I
website.
love it. And what would you tell someone as we start to wrap this up? What would you tell someone who says mental health is bigger than me? What can I do?
Ooh, that's a good question. Um, I guess I would start with the movement is big, but you as
Okay.
an individual, all of us as individuals, we all have mental health, and having mental health, a functional way of being and doing in life is essential. And
Mm,
so what you can do varies. It may just be taking care of yourself. Maybe that's the number one priority right now. It may be taking care and supporting your community, your peers, your family, um, loved ones. Or it may be the larger level of doing some campaigns and actioning on your campus or in your community, or it may be advocating at the federal policy level. So I guess what I would say is like, no matter where you are on that spectrum, if right now, today, it's like, I want to take care of my mental health, that is what's most important to me, then do that by seeking out the resources. You go to activeminds.org, um, taking care of yourself. If that's what's most important, then do that. Those actions are just as important as the things that we're doing on the federal policy level. So the movement is big, but there are so many different ways that individuals can partake and have actions in it.
Before I give you this blind question and put you in the hot seat, you
Oh,
mentioned taking care of yourself. How do you take care of yourself? What is your go to? Like, believe it or not, I love plants, so I get lost in planting and all that.
hmm,
What is your go to?
yeah.
Oh, I think you said hiking. Was it? Is it hiking?
Hiking is one of them. I do like working out, like a good yoga class or a good spin class. I think movement, so that's like working out, dance, music, all of those things are important to me. Reading a good book, and even things like, lighting a candle and like taking a moment to just like
Look, look,
sit
look.
back and
It'd
relax.
be a vibe. It'd be a vibe in here.
Exactly. Looking at photos. I love a good nature landscape. So there's so many
Okay.
different, and it's important to have varying ways, right? Because sometimes you may only have a minute or two to kind of take care of yourself in a moment. And sometimes you may have a
Yeah,
whole day or a whole weekend. And so, yeah, I try to integrate all of those things into my,
I love
into
it.
my life.
But no, that's true. Taking care of yourself more than anything, and especially mental health. I think last year I had to dive deep into that
Yeah.
and understand what that looked like
Yep.
when I was trying to build my business and realizing that it's a lonely world in entrepreneurship, right?
Yeah.
Sometimes, even in leadership, sometimes it's very lonely. You can't talk to everybody in this space.
Yep.
And I had to speak to my friends less, certain friends less, because sometimes I realized they were kind of dimming my light a little bit. Probably not intentional, but was dimming my light.
Mm-hmm.
Had to listen to more worship music. Had
Mm-hmm.
to just really find myself, and sometimes it's just cutting out the noise, finding the things that make you happy,
Yep.
because as leaders, we're never shown how to pour into others
Mm.
when we have empty cups,
Mm.
right? A lot of times we're pouring, pouring, pouring,
That's a
and people
word.
look at us like they come to you all the time, and you're like, man, I'm drained. And I was finding that friends were calling me, never even asking how I was doing. They want to give me all their drama, all this,
Right.
and so yeah, I love that you said that. Take care of yourself, more importantly, because if you want to take care of somebody else, my wife said that earlier on when I never mentioned I was sexually abused, and I never really said anything.
Mm-hmm.
And her words are very early. I was like 27 years old. I wanted to start a nonprofit around, and I did around youth.
Mm-hmm.
And she said, "How do you expect to help somebody else if you haven't helped yourself?" And I thought that was deep,
Yeah.
right? I'm 27 years old, and
Yep.
was that, and I had to figure out how was I going to help myself, and I had to have
Mm-hmm.
that conversation with the person that was sexually abusing me.
Mm.
I never had that conversation ever, but the weight that was lifted off my shoulder because I was taking care of myself was major. All right, so enough about me. I'll put you into this blind question spot. You lead community initiatives at a key mental health organization, but what's that one internal challenge or pivot that you've made that you really share publicly, and how has it actually changed your approach?
Mm. Pivot, do you mean in that I've made at this organization or just in my life and approach
Yeah,
to
yeah, your leadership life.
yeah, that's a good question. I'm gonna take
You
some
thought these questions
cooking
were going to be easy? Is that what you thought, Brandy, when you showed up? What?
tools. Pivot. I think this may sound cliche, but I'm gonna say
Okay.
it anyway. Um, I think in my first sort of foray into leadership in my career, it was a lot of like sweating the small stuff. And for me, that's not sustainable. And so I think for me, the pivot was being able to distinguish between, is this thing, this issue, whatever it is that I'm dealing
Hmm.
with as a part of a leader of said organization,
Hmm.
does it really, really matter? Is it going to deter? Is it going to deter or help us fulfill the mission? And I think that helped me to like decipher and get through a lot of the noise and really hone in and focus on what's most important. Because things are going to
That
come
no
up every single day.
Yeah. There goes that noise again, right? We talked about it. That noise, they get loud sometimes. Yeah, yeah. Some
Very
days
much
louder than
so.
others.
Very much
Yeah.
so. And so that's like a mantra I still use to this day. And like I'm not always great at deciphering through it. Like none of us are perfect, but at least being able to come back to that and answer like definitively yes or no so I can
Yeah.
focus my energy and my time in a certain way. I think that has been yeah, life-changing.
Well, Brandy, I definitely appreciate the time that we've had here today, all the insight on who you are as a leader and continue to will be as a leader and grow. I mean, you said early, only 41. You got another, 40, 50 years to do this
Oh
work. I'm
good.
just saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, we appreciate the time, and I know we'll have another conversation around this as well. Thank you so much for being who you are authentically, as well. That's more important. We didn't even talk about that, but I can tell who you are on camera is who you are outside of this, and I think that matters the most when we talk about representation and a woman in this space. Is that authentically we have to always be ourselves to show others. You don't got to be anybody else to be in these seats. And with that being said, Brandy, we thank you so much for the time that you have here. May you continue to stay blessed. Enjoy your weekend. For those that are watching, make sure you guys tap in with Brandy as well. Check out the websites. Check out the organization. I'm definitely going to check out those. You talk about those videos about
Yes.
what can I find? It's just
Yeah.
YouTube. Where's that at?
It's on YouTube, asktohelp.com. AskTohelp.com.
I'm gonna look it up. That sounds really cool. But thank you so much, guys. Make sure you guys go check it out. I'm Efrain. This is Brandy, and we'll catch you guys on the next one.
Take
Laters.
care.